Hey, how's it going? So we got everyone here except for one person that we're waiting on that might pop in. So we're just gonna go ahead and get started. So first off, I'd like to thank everyone for coming, but most importantly, the alumni for taking the time out of your busy schedules to come talk to us and to help us as undergraduates. And second of all, to the brothers for taking the time out of their schedules and putting work aside so that they can be here to help better their futures and to gain some career advice. So, without further ado, I'd like to ask the first question for the alumni. And the way that this can go with answering is I'm just kind of let it take a natural structure. So, I'm just going to ask the question and then all of the alumni will answer in whatever order that you want to answer. It's kind of just free for all. So, it is just please introduce yourself, tell us about your career path, and then tell us about your current company and then your role within that company. You want to start us off, Brandon? I think you're on mute.
Hi.
Oh, yeah, there we go. So Brandon Hunt, mechanical engineering graduate, 2016. Basically had a couple internships in college, one for Colonial Web, a mechanical contractor in Richmond, which was on the construction side, and then with GE Power and Water down in their gas turbine facility in Greenville, South Carolina. Then took a full-time role with Trane down in Charlotte, North Carolina, doing some controls estimating for their commercial sales office down there. And then took a sales role for the equipment side with Trane and moved back to Richmond, Virginia, where I currently work as an account manager. So basically I call on mechanical contractors and engineers, help them design and install commercial air conditioning systems on the equipment and control side. So get to kind of use the engineering, repertoire a pretty decent amount, but also get to use the social aspect as well that you typically learn going through the fraternity and everything. So kind of get the best of both worlds in that.
What's up, Beyond? How you doing, man?
Not too much, Bunting.
It's been a minute since I've seen you.
Yeah, dude. Do you have a Tesla now?
No, dude. I rented that thing.
Oh, okay.
I was driving 4 drunk girls through wine country, so I had to do something fun for me.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah. All right, but I'll get back to the question at hand. Yeah, so my name is John Bunting. I'm a computer engineering graduate, class of 2017, and then I stayed for my master's. Got that in 2019. Similar to B Hunt, I did a sales job out of college. I worked for Texas Instruments, the calculator company. But they also for anybody who doesn't know computer engineering, then they're a calculator company. If you study computer engineering, they sell a whole bunch of little tiny chips that go in TVs and cars and a whole bunch of other stuff, anything electronic pretty much. Did that for about 3 months, and then met up with the guy who's the CEO of my current company. I met him at Virginia Tech actually, and we just kind of hit it off at a networking event. And then he recruited me to come out and work for his startup. So I work for a company called Mythic, and we make computer chips that accelerate artificial intelligence applications. And I'm doing a kind of pseudo sales and engineering role for them right now. Technically, my title is a senior solutions engineer, but yeah, that's me.
Hi, I'm Yin. I graduated 2013. See some familiar faces here. As for me, I studied computer science at Virginia Tech. Seems so long ago. I started my career with internship at the Federal Reserve Board of Governors when I was that was 2011, I think. 2012, I landed an internship with Amazon, and ever since, I came back as a full-time, and ever since 2013, I've been at Amazon. Started as software engineer, and then after that, transitioned to management about 3 years ago, and now is currently leading a team of 11 engineers. So yeah, that's my story. And it'll be great to see some familiar brothers on video. Looking at you, Brian and Ross. Haven't seen you in a while. And Bradley.
Ouch, Jen, that hurts.
Oh, and Brandon. I already saw you, Brandon.
I'm here.
Okay, so I can go. My name's Brian Keller. I graduated in 2012 mechanical engineering, 2013 with my master's. I work for the Boeing company, Boeing Commercial Airplanes. I am a structures engineering manager right now, and my career definitely started with internships, just like a lot of the other stories. So I interned with NASA my sophomore summer, GE my junior summer, and then Boeing my senior summer. Then came back to Boeing doing the same kind of job, and that was production stress analysis. So, you know, they would analyze and design the way the plane is built. So like if you think about the shape of the airplane and just like what you see, you know, that's a collection of millions of parts. So each one of those is analyzed for different conditions. And then as they're putting it together, you know, it's a million-piece puzzle. It doesn't go together the way you expect. And so when things are misdrilled or they don't fit or they're damaged, we would analyze them to see if they're okay to put on the plane. And I did that for the 787 program for about 5 years. And then I transitioned to be a lead analyst for the 777X, which is the new airplane that you might have just seen in the news as being delayed for entry into service until 2 more years, but it is flying. And then I transitioned to management, similar to Yin in 2018. And then I've led teams on the 767 doing structural engineering and design. And then now the 787 again, doing structural engineering and design for the center wing tank. And I lead about 20 direct reports, and then I have oversight for about 50 Japanese engineers that are doing work for our company. And so it has been a very, very fun career so far. Look forward to your questions. And also great to see similar faces or classified Yin and Ross and Brad, Brandon. It's good to see you guys.
My turn?
Yeah, let's hear it.
Hi, guys. My name is George Forbes. I'm number 427. So that must mean I was a graduate last century, class of 1990, civil engineer. I'm so old. My son is a beta. My son is a beta at the George Mason University chapter. In fact, he's at Rush right now. They're rushing a bunch of guys. So we're a legacy family here. Thanks for having me, Brandon, and the rest of you guys. I was a civil engineer, but I was also in the Corps Cadets. And when I graduated, I went into the Air Force, and I was a civil engineering officer. My thing was heavy construction, So I built airfields principally and other big buildings around the world, and became a base camp planner, and was mostly with the Army. But I was in Haiti and Bosnia and Middle East, of course, Panama, many places all over the world. And became an explosives demolition officer. So I built them, and I also blew them up. I did that for about 10 years. I got out and went over to the Middle East, and I started building out all these big airfields and projects for the U.S. military over there. I brought my family, my kids, grew up overseas in Doha and Qatar, but I had offices all throughout the Middle East and Central Asia. And then ExxonMobil asked me to come and help them build out their big projects. And so I worked with ExxonMobil in the Middle East, building out large LNG gas plants. And that brought me to work in France and Italy. And so we lived in Europe for quite a while. My kids pretty much grew up outside of the US. I started doing data about halfway through my career, and GIS kind of stuff. Being a civil engineer, GIS was important, but it got me into data. After I worked with ExxonMobil, I came back to the US. I wanted to get my kids back here and go to US junior high schools and middle schools and high schools. And so I did, and I came back. I worked for HUD and stood up a center of excellence for data analytics and for data visualization at HUD, and became the acting chief data officer there at HUD for a while. Then now, somewhere along the way, I went back to graduate school. I went to Harvard, and I continue to go to Harvard still. So everyone in my house is a student, all the kids and me and the rest. And so I'm pursuing my master's in data science there at Harvard. And now I work for the U.S. Air Force again as a civilian. My job is the technical director for the chief of operations. So essentially the head pilot. My job is to figure out how many pilots we have and how many we need. And I advise not only the chief of operations, but also the chief of staff of the Air Force. So my boss is a 3-star, his boss is a 4-star. And I work in the Pentagon, and I have for some time now. So that's my story, sticking to it.
Hey, this is Ross. I'm not sure if my volume's coming through my actual microphone or my headset microphone. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yeah, we
Thumbs
can
up.
hear
All
you.
right, sweet.
I think, did we just lose you, Ross? I think you might have just muted yourself.
Yeah, you're on mute again, Ron.
Here we go. Did I tap my? I feel like such a boomer. All right. Graduated in 2013 in industrial and systems engineering, and started with Accenture in consulting. Did that for about a year and some change, a little under 2 years. I hated traveling. Flew out to Chicago for a year. I live in Charlotte, North Carolina right now because I worked in Accenture's Charlotte office. And I remember it was February. I flew out of Charlotte. It was 64 degrees. And I landed in Chicago, and it was -4 degrees. And I was like, what is this misery? So ended up leaving my job at Accenture after about a year and 8 months. And I know that because that's exactly what I have on my LinkedIn. And I went to work full-time with Duke Energy. And I had been assigned to Accenture's resources practice. So my clients were Duke Energy, and then out in Chicago, it was ComEd. And I did some product development work at Duke Energy. Did that for about 2.5 years. Got my PE license while I was there. So if anyone has any questions about that process, feel free to ask me about it. I've never stamped anything, even though I have a stamp, because I'm not a civil engineer, so I'm not building bridges. But was able to get my PE license as just something, as kind of an accomplishment for me. So left Duke, got back into consulting. I probably have the most hip hop, like jumping all over the place. But I left Duke and got back to consulting with a small firm called CapTech Ventures, which is actually based out of Richmond, Virginia. I think there are about 1,100 people now, but when I joined, it was about 700 or so. Again, another 2.5 years goes by, and I actually was doing consulting work for financial services clients, mainly Bank of America here in Charlotte. And I jumped and got back into industry in financial services and do strategy work for Wells Fargo. So probably the least engineering-ish roles. The most engineering focus was probably at Duke Energy. But other than that, I've been very soft skill, project management, strategy work, consulting type stuff, which kind of aligns with what a lot of industrial engineers do. I did do an internship with Lowe's Home Improvement in one of their distribution centers back in 2012. And I knew then and there that I was not going to do distribution center work and do time studies and kind of that very nitty gritty industrial engineering that you see a lot. So consulting, industry, back and forth. I'll probably hop ship in another year and a half because I can't sit still for more than, 2.5 years before I get antsy and kind of jump and go all over the place. So props to Yin, who's been at Amazon his whole career, Brian, who's been at Boeing his whole career, and but that's just not for me, and I'm hopping all over the place. So looking forward to some great discussion today.
Thank you, Ross, and thanks to everyone. That was the first round of questions. I think that went really well. It was really nice to actually get to meet you guys, even though it's over Zoom. I know we've just been talking over email and LinkedIn and stuff, but yeah, great to see you guys. And now I'd like to pass it off to Joey Collier to ask the next question.
Thanks, Jacoby. And thanks, everyone, for hopping on tonight. My name is Joey Collier. I'm a junior in industrial and systems engineering. And the second question that we have for you guys today is, what are some unique benefits that your career path has provided you with?
How do we do this? Do we do we raise our hands? Do we just unmute?
How do you?
Oh,
Yeah,
I just wanted to open it up to however people wanted to proceed. And if there was a silence, I was just going to request someone to unmute. It's pretty much like answer at your own will. And I just kind of want it to be like natural, like we were in a room in person. And sometimes people just gotta, if they're feeling the question, then go first.
I think maybe going down the line will be a little bit more useful because I'm pretty sure everybody here has insights, but I'm happy to share mine. And I'll go first. So in terms of what my career path has benefited me the most, if anything, Amazon stock prices. I think that's definitely there. But all jokes aside, I think the most important thing is to see kind of the growth opportunity that I have, see the growth that I've done, because Amazon is such a big company, right? And my story will definitely be different than other people's stories because, but at Amazon, you have the opportunity to try something new because we are in so many different business and different aspects of everything. And I started at fulfillment, and then I kind of moved over to Softlines, which is Amazon Fashion, and from there I kind of start building out my own project and kind of drive up my own business within Amazon. So there's definitely a lot of opportunities, but looking like what has benefited me the most is the fact that I get to work in a company that has similar ideas across the entire company, similar to Betas and Fraternity. We all share the same lore, so therefore we have something in common. At Amazon, we all share the Amazon, leadership principle and Amazon culture, so we get to share that and using that to find common ground and build something and kind of move forward. I think that's really cool, and that's the reason why I stay at Amazon.
One of the big great things that can you hear me? This is George.
Yeah, we can hear you, George.
I got to travel a lot and see the world, and as a result, I speak several languages now. So do my kids. It's kind of cool. But also the career choice that I made allowed me to have lots of responsibility to manage big teams, big teams very early, which was a big help for me. I think my first project, I went down to Panama with 250 men, and I think I was 23, 24 years old. It was very young, and it escalates up there. My last big project was like 24,000 people. So it really gives you the opportunity. My choices gave me the opportunity to work with large groups of people doing very, very big projects all over the world. So that was neat for me.
Yeah. So I kind of think there's three main categories that I would say that my career path has offered me. I mean, one is the chance to work and contribute to something meaningful. You know, I think we all kind of have different reasons for entering engineering, but I know for me, and especially when I was looking for a job, working on a product that I could like connect with and that I thought, you know, did something for the greater good was very important. And, you know, working on these massive airplanes and things like that and being able to walk on them, you know, go out on a wing kind of thing, it's pretty incredible. The other thing is Yen joked about the stock price, but financial security and freedom is no joke. I think there's multiple brothers here who will tell you that that is a very fortunate thing, and it's something that a lot of people through engineering can accomplish, and so I wish that for you too. It's definitely helped me and my family. My wife actually got really sick about a year ago and had to go on medical leave, and if I hadn't had the opportunities that I had, you know, it would have made things a lot more complicated, you know, with whether it's insurance or living on one income. The other thing is not as much as George, but I have had the opportunity to travel and go to Italy, go to different sites for Boeing, see different products, see test centers at Stennis in Mississippi, you know, for Space Launch System, seeing bombers in Oklahoma City, see where they build the mechanisms for, you know, putting future hypersonic missiles on those bombers, things like that. It's just really cool stuff. So that's what I would say.
Yeah, so I kind of have a short list of about 3 or so as well. First one being when I made the switch within Trane from kind of the sales support side to the sales side, I got the ability to go to their graduate training program, which is pretty standard, I guess, at least from what I saw coming out of school in just the engineering industry in general. So I would definitely recommend, you know, if you do have an opportunity like that, it's really good because you kind of, I almost kind of compared it to grad school without having to go to grad school and pay for it. You know, they push a lot of information on you that's directly related to your job, and as well as development opportunities. And it's just really good exposure for pretty much any company. I mean, I'm guessing, Brian, you had something similar in Boeing and Yen, obviously. So that's, I guess, just a recommendation from me. The other thing that I think Yen and Brian both touched on was, you know, find something that you're passionate about. For me, I get to work in commercial buildings of every type, day in and day out, on the design and install side. So I kind of look at buildings a lot differently than other people do. And I'm sure Brian has the same thing with planes. So it's finding that thing that you're kind of passionate about is kind of cool. And then being on the sales side, I think that having to deal with a wide array of people has been really interesting for me. And it's kind of given me some insight internally where, you know, I'll notice stuff just because I'm working with someone, and I'll kind of pick up on their habits and stuff like that. So just, you know, getting that experience, and I mean, you'll get similar stuff when it comes to project management and working with large teams. It's it's a benefit personally as well as you know, financially. So.
Hey, this is Ross. Yeah, I think as far as what my career path has kind of afforded me from a an opportunity standpoint, I think being more of the soft skill side of stuff, I can find roles at, you know, any sort of industry at this point. When you look at project managers or, you know, strategy people who, you know, look at opportunities to innovate or improve processes or this, that, or the other, you know, I can't sit down and say that I can design, you know, an exhaust manifold or you know, a bridge. But I think if you're very passionate about one specific thing, which I think there are a lot of people on here that are, you know, and you can find that and do that and be an expert in that, that's a great career path. And then I think on the opposite side of that coin, it's, okay, well, I've got all these soft skills that, you know, okay, well, I think that this industry looks really cool or this industry looks really cool, and they might have absolutely nothing to do with each other. And the ability to kind of hop into those different pools, I think has been really interesting for me, just from a pure, you know, exposure to what's out there sort of deal. And I don't feel like I'm trapped in one specific niche field of, you know, I created this widget and that's all I know how to do, and I do this day in and day out. Okay, well, how many other widget manufacturers are there that I could jump to and go work there? So I think that's what I've liked about mine, is that I've been able to work in consulting, which is, you know, industry agnostic, and then the utility industry and the financial service industry, and God only knows what industry I'll jump into next, just because, you know, I've enjoyed that ability to kind of transcend a specific niche, but kind of what I've liked.
Hey, this is John here. I think one unique thing that my career has afforded me, or the career path I've taken has afforded me, as a perspective in the difference between large and small companies. So when I first started, I was working for Texas Instruments, like I said, 30,000 employees worldwide. There's a lot of structure, and, you know, there's a lot of opportunities to see how a large company is run, you know, how they promote good employees, how they interact across countries and different time zones, and, you know, how do you make a large organization work? Because, you know, oftentimes, as I'm sure a lot of other guys on here that work for large companies know, you're working with people you've never met before. You know, you have to try to establish rapport and get stuff out of people from guys that you'll never meet, and that's a unique challenge. And then going from a really large company to a company of under 100 people, where there are no real like team boundaries, like, you know, every single person you work for, you get to see them day in, day out. You know, there's no real lines of responsibility. It's just somebody needs to step up and get the work done, or else, you know, we don't have a job come a year from now when we're trying to raise money again. So it's really interesting to see the difference between like a really stable job and a really unstable job, where you're always hustling and just trying to make it to the next day. So, and then one more thing actually is, you know, Yin was talking about like pay and stuff like that, and financial security. All of that stuff is really important. But another thing to take into consideration is, you know, how much time do you get? And there are benefits that certain jobs offer you, like the ability to travel, ability to learn new languages, the ability to take time off and like just unplug, get away from work, and go and do stuff you actually want to go and do. The ability to take like medical leave, the ability to, you know, have stock options and stuff like that. So all of those things are things that you definitely should consider when you're looking at a job. Because if you're making all the money in the world, but you work 90-hour weeks, then, you know, you have no opportunity to spend it. So that's no use to you.
Thanks, John. That was very insightful. I'd like to pass it off to Cameron Parrott now to ask the next question.
Hey guys, I'm Cameron Parrott. I'm a junior here at Virginia Tech in Industrial Systems Engineering. I would first like to emphasize and thank you guys for coming out again. So my question is, what is one thing that you know now that you wish you would have known coming out of college? Whoever wants to hop on first can go.
Hey, this is Ross. I wrote through the questions because Brandon sent them over, so I appreciate that. And I saw this one, and I think the one for me, and it's funny because we've been talking about financial stuff, but how to budget. I had never budgeted in my life in college, and I coasted on the fact that, and Brian and Yin and who I was in school with probably remember this, but my dad offered me $5,000 to wait until I was 21 to start drinking, and I joined Beta my freshman year, so I did it, and I waited until I was 21. And props to Beta for not giving me any shit for it. And I coasted on that $5,000 basically from 21 till graduation. And I left school and started with Accenture and had never set up a budget. So to answer your question, I think financial literacy is so critical for success long term. And I'm seeing a message probably from Brian. So when you look at retirement planning and just budgeting in general, I think that is a key to not even, I want to save up for this, I want to do this or that, but just like knowing where your money's going, knowing that you're spending $15 on Hulu a month and $12 on Netflix a month and $200 a year on pizza, which I found that I do sometimes, just knowing where your money's going and being a good steward of it. Engineers oftentimes start at a higher end than most graduates. So the earlier you can save, the better. 10% is kind of common, but the more money you can put away, the better off you'll be with whether it's an emergency fund or, retiring early, all that good stuff. So be thinking about it now, just because 5 years is going to pass, 8 years is going to pass, 12 years is going to pass, and all of a sudden you're going to look back and say, crap, I should have saved more money. But also, do I love my job enough that I don't care if I'm going to be 65, 67, 69 and still working or not? So just something to think about. But
to piggyback off Ross, there's a class at Virginia Tech called Personal Financial Planning that's taught through Ag Econ. A guy by the name of Alex White, I think, is the person who or at least taught it to me. Most valuable class I took in college. Highly, highly recommend taking it as an elective if you're able to.
So I'll go next. I'll take a bit of a softer approach, although I definitely agree with what Ross said. That is really important. Yin and I moved across the country after school, and I think I definitely underestimated how hard it is to build the same kind of relationships, after school. And not just friendships. I mean, we were both fortunate in that we had other brothers out here and still do, and that's great. But even at work, like you spend the majority of your time there, but building relationships and networking is one of the ways that you shore up against some of that career risk that Ross was kind of speaking to, that he could, cover with Brett. And so I think I would have maybe invested a little bit more time trying to do things with professional societies, like ASME or AIAA when I was in school. I was a grad student. I really barreled through my graduate program and my thesis. I could have spent or made more effort to go to conferences and things like that. And I think, that's something that now in my career that I'm trying to put some momentum into, because again, your network is important, relationships are important, and having a lot of different ways to kind of build those and find people, I think is important. And even more so if you're going to be living somewhere and working somewhere where you don't have family, or you don't have a ton of friends, they're just right there.
I will go next. One, definitely echo Ross for sure. Learn how to manage your money. I suck at it. I'm still learning. Financial independence is very important. Second thing about Brian, it's also very important to make friends, but if I recall correctly, Brian had a lot of friends in Seattle, so wherever he told you is a lie. I remember going to see Brian and he had like 30 buddies just chilling there, and that was like the first week we were there. But I think one of the things I wish I knew that I really want to preach was focus on the big picture, right? I think one of the things that I end up getting caught, and took me a long time to figure out, was that I caught up in a lot of this small scenarios that's happening to me, and it kind of pivot you from looking at the big picture, because in the grand scheme of life, right, and especially if we're talking about engineering career, you're going to have 40 years of career, maybe. If you want to retire early, that's fine, but 30 something years. And sometimes we get caught up in, my promotion is delayed 3 months, or I didn't get the job I wanted, or I didn't get the internship I wanted. All these things, they do, and people, believe that they set you back, and they hold you back. But in the grand scheme of life in your career, it's actually not. It's like you getting a job a year down the road, that's not going to make a big difference in your 30-year career. Waiting to move into management versus waiting a year until you master the skills, that's not going to hold you back a lot. And I think looking back on it, there was moments in my career and college career that there was a lot of regrets. Like, I was so upset with myself because I didn't get into Google, and a lot of misses where but taking a step back, looking at the big picture, it didn't really mean much. It didn't really set my career back. So focus on the big picture, focus your end goal, work towards your long-term vision, and sweat the small details, right? It might hurt in the moment, or it might frustrate you in the moment, but down the road, doesn't really matter.
Yeah, to kind of, I guess, go a little deeper on what Brian was talking about, but more on kind of the business side. I know, Brian, you were talking a little bit more on the personal side, but, people always say it's all about who you know. And being in college, and younger, I always thought that, that was important. But I guess after a few years working, you really do realize how important that is. So having the courage to go up to the big wig that you see coming through the plant, or building that relationship with your boss and your boss's boss is super important when it comes to the point that you're looking for career growth, different opportunities, finding what you really want to do, and making a change if you want to make that change. Having that relationship with management and with your superiors is really important, and something that I didn't do a great job of early on in my career. And once I kind of saw that as something that was holding me back, it's definitely a quick change that I made that made immediate dividends. So that's just a recommendation that I would make. And then just any sort of uncomfortable situation, not like doing something bad or something like that, but a situation where you don't know exactly what you're doing, and you're having to really dive into something new and something that you're just not familiar with. I think that's some of the biggest chance you have for growth and learning. And it's really tough to get to the mindset that you're looking for something like that. But when you're able to kind of seek those out, is where you'll kind of find not only a lot of growth, but a lot of satisfaction when you do come up with the answer that 2 months ago you feel like you never could have found. So those are kind of my two big ones on that.
Hey, it's John here. I think Ian and Brandon both made great points, and I'd love to piggyback off both of them. It's really important coming out of college and in still being in college to take like school in context, and like school is a game. It really is just a game. You're going to learn everything you need for your career, for your specific role on the job. Like even as an engineer, like I have never used differential equations once. Like, it's just a game. Get through it, do well. Like, don't still take it seriously. I'm not saying like to screw off or whatever, but like get a good GPA. If you can, take professors that aren't jerks. Get out and appreciate college as like a stepping stone. You know, you guys are already in a fraternity. You guys obviously care about networking, like these relationships. The fact that you guys are even doing this type of like networking event is super awesome. And maybe there's something that you guys would rather be doing on a Tuesday night, but like this stuff does help you guys. So I appreciate that you guys invited us, and I hope you guys are getting something out of this. And then, like Bren was saying, if you want to grow on the job, like seek opportunities. And the best thing about like the working world as compared to school is like there are no deadlines. I mean, there are deadlines, but like they're a little bit more negotiable. Like it's not like my semester is going to end in 3 months. I have to get this final report in or else my professor is going to fail me. Like in the real world, like it's just a bunch of people trying to get stuff done. And there's a lot more opportunities for you to grow because it's more acceptable for you to take risk. So if you want to grow, if you want to like be a bigwig, if you want to go do something awesome, make a lot of money, whatever it is you're interested in, you know, get through school, appreciate it, learn as much as you can, but then take risks when you get in your work, into your job and into working world, because that's where you really have the opportunity to succeed and take responsibility and shine. So.
My last, Brandon? I think maybe.
Yep. Yes, you are the last.
Well, I want to show you something. Can I share my screen?
I think I have it restricted. Let me just see if I can change that right now. Okay, yeah, I just opened it up, so now you can share the screen.
I'm going to share my screen. You know why? I have been through my career had reason to mentor a lot of managers, a lot of people. Here's the secret sauce for everybody on this call. I wish I would have known this 30 years ago. Somebody very wise who was 35 years my senior told me this. But if you do this, any of these two things, and I'm going to explain it to you here in a second, you will never, ever be fired. If you do all three of these things, you will be a unicorn rock star. Let me explain this. First one's on time. So that one's easy, right? You show up to meetings on time. You show up to work on time. That's the easy part of it. But it's not just showing up. It's being cheerful. It's being useful. It's being a team player. You know, all those kinds of things. If you are on time, that's probably the easiest thing to do here. The other thing is being good at your job. These are your technical skills. This is going to graduate school when you're 52 years old. This is taking seriously, learning how to do trades, learning how to do those small things. This is becoming an expert that nobody can live without, right? That's knowing your job. Even if your job is simply digging ditches, be the best ditch digger you could ever be. And then the other piece is being well liked. And you guys have touched on it, being networked, going to events. This is not being that jerk, right? This is being that person who takes relationships serious and has high emotional intelligence. So I'm going to explain how this works. If you're any of these two things, think about that job that you had working as an intern or flipping burgers or whatever the case is. If you were on time and you wore that orange and yellow outfit, right? And you were well liked by the boss, you're never going to get fired. If you were especially good at flipping burgers, right? They came to rely on you all the time. And you change that dynamic to any other two. You're really well liked and you're really good at your job, but you're late every day. They're still not going to fire you. Still not going to fire. They need you. Why? Because you're well liked and you're good at your job. And then finally, if you're on time every day, if you're there for every meeting with bells on, you're sitting there 5 minutes early, you got your notepad, you know you're ready to roll, you're well informed, and you're excellent at your job, but you're an asshole, you're still gonna do okay. You're not gonna get fired because they need you. But when you pull all these things together, and I think I heard some of you guys saying that, right? When you realize I needed to spend more time networking and getting out there and being well liked, you saw dividends right away. It's when you pull these three things together here is when you set yourself apart. And I guarantee you, 35 years working in industry and working in different places, if you master this formula, 100% of the time, I've seen people excel above their peers. And take this with you. This is a very, very, very well-worn slide that I use. It came with it's tuition I paid over many years. So feel free to have it. I'm gonna stop sharing.
Thank you so much. That, for me at least, that was the first time I've ever heard anything like that. Definitely changed the way I think about performance in the job setting. So thank you so much for sharing that.